For too long, we have been told that we are too weak, too poor, too uneducated to build our own future. But I tell you today, that is a lie.
They belittle people. We are not people to be belittled at all. They think they are better than everybody else. It's not God-given. God created us equal.
To the youth of Africa, listen to me carefully. We are standing on the edge of history, and this is the moment when you must decide, will you continue to wait for salvation from outside, or will you rise and claim your destiny? For too long, we have been told that we are too weak, too poor, too uneducated to build our own future. But I tell you today, that is a lie. They said Africa cannot manufacture its own machines, yet every year we produce millions of brilliant minds, but only to serve others. We train engineers, yet we import even the simplest tools. We have fertile lands, yet we depend on others for food. Why? Because we have been programmed to doubt ourselves. We have been taught to beg for aid, instead of building strength. We have been trapped in the illusion that without Europe, without America, we are nothing. But I see a different Africa, and I want you, the youth, to see it with me. I see an Africa where the sons and daughters of this continent become the inventors of tomorrow, where we build satellites that orbit the Earth, and they are made by African hands, where our doctors do not flee to foreign countries, but stay to build health systems that serve our people with dignity, where we are not the customers of foreign technologies, but the creators of technologies that change the world. But my children, to get there, you must understand, no one will build this Africa for you. The liberation you want, the prosperity you desire, the respect you seek, you must build it with your own hands, and that begins with education. Not the kind of education that teaches you to pass exams and wear a suit, but the education that teaches you to solve problems, to think critically, to ask, what can I create? What can I improve? What can I build that my community needs? If your education is not making you more useful to your people, it is a prison, not freedom. And yet education alone is not enough. We must also have courage. Courage to innovate. Courage to fail and try again. Courage to stand tall and say, I will not run to Europe for a better life. I will build my better life here. Look at the world. It is built by men and women no different from you. They are not gods. They have no special blood. They succeeded because they believed they could, and because their societies invested in their talents. We must do the same. My vision is of an Africa where every youth is a soldier, not with guns, but with skills, with knowledge, with innovation. Imagine an Africa with its own search engines, its own social media platforms, its own tech giants, its own pharmaceutical industries, its own energy companies driven by solar and wind, from the Sahel to the Cape. This is possible, but it requires discipline. You cannot build the Africa of tomorrow if your mind is addicted to distraction. You spend hours scrolling, laughing at memes, watching others build, while you remain spectators in the theater of global progress. Enough. I call on you to wake up. I call on you to master skills, learn to code, learn to design, learn to farm smartly, learn renewable energy, learn manufacturing. If you do not, others will, and you will remain slaves, not by chains, but by ignorance.
They belittle people. We are not people to be belittled at all. They are no better than anybody. We have fought for our freedoms right from childhood, some of us. These people who just run around cannot, they, of course, in their culture, they are not humble. They think they are better than everybody else. Well, it's not God-given. God created us equal. For these other gods who want us to bow to them, in Rwanda, they are in the wrong place. You can't belittle a people. Well, you can attempt to attack me, to do whatever you want, me as a person. But a people, the Rwandans, to want to size them up and think you can turn them into nothing, It's a wrong thing, but it's also very difficult because we cannot accept it.
If you want to break with these imperialist forces, it's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts from there. I think the example of Chad in any case is tangible. They started by denouncing the agreements. Otherwise, if we don't denounce the agreements, just saying that the bases leave, we haven't done anything. Because the problem lies in the colonial agreements, the defenses that have been signed since independence. The most dangerous is not the one you see in the bases. The most dangerous are the military advisors. Military advisors exist in all these countries. They existed in Burkina as well until the end of 2022, until we took responsibility. And who are these military advisors? They are the ones who are supposed to implement France's policy. Here, they must work to make our armies very weak so that France can always have the argument to exist here. Under their influence, they had succeeded. Our sentinels were therefore standing guard with sticks. That's what France wants from our armies. When we reach this stage, we have no choice but to want them to come and settle. But the Burkinabe army managed to get rid of the military advisors. Unfortunately, I think that in 2019, after Operation Otapono, where the French saw that the Burkinabe army still had the capacity to respond to terrorists, they called the chiefs of staff in France. They instructed him to reintegrate the military advisors throughout the structure. Well, they did not agree. But upon returning to the country, the politicians instructed him to accept the military advisors. And that's when the military advisors returned to the Burkinabe army in 2019. With all the consequences we know, the army was on the verge of disappearing in the years 2020, 2021. And indeed, this is the time when many soldiers had to desert because there was no longer any hope. We were in the process of collapsing. That's a bit how they work at the General Staff headquarters. In all army headquarters, in the schools, they are the ones who are supposed to dictate the policy of our army. They are the ones who tell us when to recruit, how to recruit, and what to do with them. They are in the schools to tell us how to train them, and so on. As long as these military advisors are there, you are not independent. Your army will just have the appearance of an army that is there to perform parades, a circus. But when war comes, you will realize that a parade is one thing, but war is another thing. You have to break the agreements. It's the only way to have an independent army and build strength. But many people do not understand this, perhaps. And even with these agreements, France selects from our states officer cadets to go and train them. It's through these same agreements. But in reality, these officers who go to train, for the most part for France, they come to serve the French state in their country. They do not come to serve our countries. They train them so that they come to serve the interests of the French state. I can provide evidence of this. When we revolted, many officers in Burkina who were trained in France were immediately contacted to tell them that it was time to take action because you were trained for this, to serve France's interests. Most of these officers reported back to us. We took note and we continued to monitor. When an officer trained in France returns to his country and unfortunately dies, either by accident or on the battlefield. In France, there is a night of tribute to the fallen in the army, as there is everywhere else. During the night of tribute to the fallen, the name of the officer in question is mentioned, and it is said, died for France. They do not train him to serve his country, they train him to serve their state. And in many African states, there are plenty of such officers.
Right. You've always consistently refused this criticism on human rights, on a democracy that's not exactly a democracy, always saying this comes from the West, or Western media, or Western organization. Don't they have a point at all?
Wouldn't I have a point if I criticized the Western democracy?
Sure.
Yeah. So what is the problem? If democracy is not going to be perfect anywhere, at all, as we have seen, as we always see. we see that, you know. What I don't like is just the hypocrisy. You are so deep in your own mess about democracy, and then you think you have authority to come and make criticisms about others and even want that to have a consequence on them. It's just hypocrisy. And am I supposed to accept that?
Well, as a last question, you were elected in 2000, so 22 years in power. The next election is scheduled in 2024. You haven't said whether you would run, but do you consider running or?
Well, I consider running for another 20 years.
Really?
I have no problem with that.
Really?
Yes. But
This means the president.
We're talking about elections.
Yes.
Again, this is the contradiction and the hypocrisy I'm talking about.
Well, there could be limit on the mandates, right?
Elections are about people choosing, isn't it?
Right. When they're free and fair, yes.
And that's yes, okay. But you haven't at least of all the criticisms you have had, nobody has said the elections have not been free or fair. But we have had it in other places that people don't even talk about, including even people who complain about us. So don't you have, right now as we speak, we are having cases in the developed world about elections.
Right.
You remember not so long ago, there is a case going on somewhere in a very advanced democracy about
in the United States, yes.
Somebody who wants to. So this is, I think people have to decide what they want to do for themselves. You see, you have problems of your own that somebody should be questioning, and then you want to, be the one to dictate what I should be doing. At the same time, even with the contradiction, because if you are talking about elections, and the election is about people choosing.
Yes, sir, but
and
there could be.
You are saying if it is free and fair, but that has not been the accusation. The accusation is different. Even the one you started, you are not talking about how free or not free the elections are. You are talking about just having to choose so many times. I think that this is different.
Right, but people could say, I'm not going to be president for life. There should be limits.
Which people are you talking about?
Well, you have debates in many African countries about 2 terms. I mean, we've had it, you're having it in Senegal, in Ivory Coast, and others, because they say a person after a while in power should leave and maybe...
That's fine. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But people can also say a different thing. So which one are you supposed to accept? People can say that, yes, and I would accept it. But if they said the other one also, I would accept it. So what is the issue here? Anyway, why would anyone be so concerned about our own situation, which the people of Rwanda seem to be happy about, that is working for them, but somebody says, no, that should not happen in Rwanda. We haven't been questioning what is happening elsewhere. As I said, if you criticize me, I'll criticize you, because there are things somebody is doing that are not right, even against me, and then he comes around and starts blaming me for what I'm doing that is working for me. For me, I'm just even basing on simple logic.